Y bueno, pues muy bien, le cedo entonces la palabra a Robert. Robert, the conference is yours. Welcome.
Hello, hello there. I'm sorry I can't do this in Spanish. It feels a bit rude, but I'll try and talk slowly about what I've been doing here. Um, I think the best thing is just purely go straight into my keynote helper. Hopefully this works. Let's try it. Share screen. See if this works. Is this working? Can you? There we go. Oh, let's come. Hang on. Bear with me. I'm not used to this. I'm much better at taking photos than doing this kind of speed. Hang on. There we go. Start at the beginning is a much better idea. So, blackwater photography and blackwater diving by me. So a bit about me. This is what I used to do before doing this. I would tour with bands, run the big video screens you see at live events, and as a result, I've had some very, very talented directors in my ear. When you're touring around the world, you get guest directors, you get all sorts of people that kind of have great artistic expressions in your ear as a camera guy, and you have to fulfill their requirements. And after 18 years of touring around the world doing that, you pick up a lot. And I realize, especially when I look at other people's photography, that they haven't had that kind of schooling. You on the road, you learn crazy different techniques to really emphasize what you're doing and make it look dramatic. Now, if I had unlimited budget, I would be doing film underwater. But I know to do videography underwater, that's way out of my budget. I can't afford a RED, I can't afford the hard drives, so I'm stuck with stills. And it kind of works. It's a lot simpler than video, but with this blackwater photography, I'm primarily just taking ID photos. I'm not really going down the artistic route. It's more of a case of if you see it, get it in focus and create an ID. So it's kind of a different idea. So these are before I did blackwater, before I realized that that's really the way, I did a lot of cave photography, as you see down here. And this, my mouse doesn't work on this, but you see on the bottom right, these are the lights that I use for the blackwater dive. They're 30,000 lumens each, which is the same as a high-powered strobe. So they are, quite sizable things. This is I bought these when I was rich and famous and stuff. I don't think I could afford them again. But these two macro photos are ones that kind of got me a bit famous on the internet. I've won an award with the one on the right, and the one on the left has been shared more than, I have no idea. It went crazy on Instagram, that photo. So this talk is going to be what blackwater diving is, the safety aspects of blackwater diving, the equipment needed for blackwater diving, how to find animals underwater, the best way to find the critters, and really importantly is how to approach those subjects. That's one of the biggest things of blackwater diving. And then lastly, how to take the photo, but I don't think I'm going to get onto that. We'll see how we go. So what is blackwater diving? Blackwater is defined as diving in open ocean with a bottom that is past recreational limits, so in excess of, say, 60 meters, and well away from a reef. This allows you to be away from the segmented worms and the horrible critters that are attracted to light that you find near a reef. We get pelagics in the blackwater that you don't find around the reef areas. And I'll touch on that more later, but blackwater diving is away from a reef at night over very deep water. So that has some big safety aspects because we're away from a reef. It's in an area that's kind of unknown for most dive captains, because they don't go into the deep, they don't go into the ocean, and it's difficult for us divers to make sure we all stay together because it's at night and there is no reference point. So we get around, we negate those safety aspects by having this massive light column. We have three 30,000 lumen lights, so 90,000 lumens, creating a very large column of water. It's lovely and blue. Now, that attracts a lot of life, and it also throws away a lot of life as well. So again, I'll come back to that. Another safety aspect is buddy teams. I know we're all guilty of it as photographers as being incredibly selfish. We all just kind of follow the subject and forget your dive buddy. In Blackwater, it's always nice to be very much together with a group, unless, like myself, I go out with 2 tanks, so my buddy's always next to me. Another safety aspect is have multiple light sources. If we're at sea and you get, for some reason, separated from the light buoy, we ask people to have 2 sources of light minimum. So if the primary light fails, you still have another light to signal for the boat. It's good to have well-maintained equipment, as all diving kind of is. It's always good to have it maintained. We had a diver on a previous dive inflate just before going in, and his inflator hose decided to annihilate itself. Luckily, we got him back on board, but it was a typical example of well-maintained gear. Now, this is a video that we made last night of the boat. You can see the boat here and the light stack here. The light stack is 4 lights. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. This top right one is pointing up at the surface. That highlights any diver around the buoy for me. So when I'm diving around the buoy, I can always see people at the surface. The next one is at 5 meters, and the one beneath that is at 10 meters, and the one beneath that is at 15 meters. I put those lights just purely because 5 meters is a safety stop, 10 meters is a nice depth. I find that if I can dive all day at 10 meters and it's not a problem. 15 meters, I go into deco pretty quick. You burn air very fast, my lungs, and when I get excited, I go through air. So for me to get a nice long 90-minute dive, I put those lights at that depth. Also, when we're a long way away from the light, if you find yourself looking up at the bottom light, you know you're too deep. So that's a really important safety measure. If you see here, we'll play this little video, which is a drone. If it will play, which it didn't, which of course it wouldn't. Come on. Let's see if it will go back, which I don't think it will it? I think my computer's stressing at all this. There we go. Oh, no, there we go. Will it play? No, it's not going to play. Excuse me, my computer is from the 1960s. Here we go. So that is a video. Imagine it playing. It's not that important. Oh, here we go. It's playing. Magic. Magic. There you go. So this is a drone flying over the boat at night. Crazy. We're going to do more of this on the next Blackwater dive. When we have divers in the water, the guy who's the drone pilot is going to fly around so we can see the pretty lights. Can't wait to see that. So the equipment needed for Blackwater. Obviously, it's your normal dive equipment. It's important to wear full wetsuit because we get stingers out there. We get box jellyfish, we get net casting siphonophores, and they are very unpleasant if they touch you. The box jellyfish that we get in the Caribbean aren't deadly. However, we don't like taking the risk, and they really do blister. The diving equipment is one side. It's very typical normal diving. But for photography and for video, it's very important to have a macro lens. A majority of the subjects are very small. The point of this Blackwater diving is to see the migration of the acoustic scattering layer, the largest migration of biomass on the planet to come up from the deep layer that it sits at during the day to come up to the surface. So we're looking at small subjects from a millimeter to 25 centimeters, say, to 2 foot, maybe. That's the kind of size we're looking for. So you need a lens and a camera system that can shoot multiple range of subjects. The recommended focal length is around about 60 millimeter. That seems to be absolutely ideal. In this photo here, you can see a small inshore squid, and my friend Vita is using a 100mm Canon lens, completely the wrong one to use. It doesn't work. It's much better with a shorter range lens, because you need to get very close to the subject. It just works so much better. When you have this distance between you and the subject, when you start getting the slightly larger subjects, you just don't have enough strobe power to light them. So to have a 60mm lens or thereabouts, you bring everything much closer, so you're within strobe range. How to look for critters. This is one thing that everyone on the dives seems to get wrong. They jump in, they swim around, and they don't see a thing, and yet they're surrounded by it. When you jump in, it's like being in a soup. That's what most people see. There's nothing there, right? But there is. That's everything you're looking at there is a form of life, pretty much. That white streak in the middle is probably a pteropod, just really fast, and you just don't notice it. So this is what everyone sees. They point their torch directly in front and blind yourself with the backscatter. So what I recommend everyone, I don't know if you can see me in the video at the same time. Am I visible? Is we hold our torches out at an angle and we light across. And once you do that, you end up with, finding, oh no, that video's gone. Okay, but what we did, the photo will come in a second. I should have practiced this a bit more. But we light across. And so now we're looking at the best way to find the creatures. It all comes into one. So, wow, got its own life. Hold on. How to look for critters using a torch, and the best way to find them. So this next shot here is what we see. I'm not going to touch it. I touched it. Next frame. There we go. So this is looking at the stack, and that's looking at the animals around it. So once you learn to put your torch at an angle, and you're now lighting an angle in front of you, you start seeing this kind of life. On the left here, you see a sargassum crab riding a salp. On the right-hand side of the frame, you see a soapfish larva and loads of other amphipods floating around it. The big bright lights that we use, these things, attract that kind of life to it. So from then, you start seeing, your eyes adapt to seeing for this small planktonic life. It's all very visible, but you need to adapt your eye. You get very overwhelmed by the lighting. So how to approach a subject? Once you've seen it, how do you get close to it to take a photo? And I used this photo, and it's very appropriate. This is a box jellyfish. This is our stinger. If you get caught by this jellyfish, it will give you a big blister that will, not a pleasant experience. I have one on my leg for 45 minutes. I was in a lot of pain. So you approach this guy very carefully, very, very carefully. So this is looking up the skirt inside the box jellyfish. Here's another box jellyfish. This guy's the small version, maybe 1 centimeter. Again, you approach this guy very slowly and very carefully. If you catch him with a hand whisk and it will come back onto you, that's going to upset your dive. You will want to finish a dive once you get hit by this guy. And another one that you have to approach really delicately. This is a net casting siphonospore. Isn't it wonderful? The colors, it's just the biggest alien thing I've ever seen. These guys sting like crazy on your lip. And they have this very complex web that spews out that you see in the ocean when you're diving around. And these small I forget the name of the stinging cells, when they catch your lip, horribly painful. So you approach this guy very, very carefully. Here's another view of a net casting siphonophore. At the top end, you can see the on the left, you can see its propulsion, and on the right, you can see all the stinging cell and that as well. So this is a terrible photo, and I apologise how bad it is, but it's a very, very special subject. It's a whalefish larva. Now, whalefish larvas have a fantastic story. It's well worth Googling. So the way you approach a whalefish larva is when you first see it's a whalefish larva, you have to work out which end is which is its face and which is its tail. And then you have to swim like crazy because it won't avoid you, it will swim into you. I don't think they're very bright. By the way they swim in the water, they seem to be pretty dumb. So you have to back fin while taking these photos, or the fish will just collide into you. These fish are fantastic. When this animal matures, if it's a male, it will be called a big nose. If it's a female, it will be called a whalefish. And they'll live at around about 3,000 meters, and they'll sniff each other out, and then they'll have a new series of young. And what a crazy animal. It's pink with a sparkly head. What's going on there? Here's another whalefish. Again, as you can see, I must have been swimming backwards like crazy to get this. So again, it's a whalefish, this time a brown one, very boring, but just an unusual face. When do you ever see a fish like this on a reef? And approaching the subject. So this is a salp, a communal tunicate, and it comes in this beautiful symmetry. So when you see these swimming around, it's really lovely to try and swim and get the camera into a position to show the symmetry of this animal, or these animals, because they're animals. So really, the approach to the subject is obviously of how you want to show people what these animals look like. I have another one here. This is a tripod fish, a rainbow tripod fish. This is one of the animals we really try and find out there. We're very lucky in the Caribbean for having these. But so the ultimate shot for these guys is direct head on, so you can see the wonderful fins. These tripod fish, when they're adults, will live down on the abyssal plain, just sitting on the floor in the Gulf, doing nothing, waiting for food to come in. But when they're juveniles, they have this fantastic pectoral fin arrangement, which, when taken head on, look incredible. If you take it side on, not such a great photo. So you have to be very quick with your fin technique to get the camera directly onto the fish. There's other ones that you need to be quick with too. This is a lionfish larva. You have to approach these guys with a red light only. If you have a white light, a spotting light, you'll blind the animal and it will go into a defense where it will either spin or it will close its fins and it will swim away at a fire very fast. So you use a red light to not damage the eyes, and then line yourself up to show the fantastic fins that they have. There are other things that have this beautiful circular symmetry out there. This is a priazome, a communal tunicate. They're made anything up to 2 foot long around Cozumel. They change from being 2 centimeters to a foot long or so. Communal tunicate, they often have interesting things living inside. You can see in this photo that I failed in noticing the shrimp that lives inside it. If only I'd realised that, it could have been a much better photo. But it just makes for a nice circular image. Another weird animal that we get here is a sea elephant. These sea elephants are incredibly photosensitive. You can see the size of the lenses on the eyes that it has. If you point directly white light at these animals, they disappear and go back down to their daylight phase. If you use a red light, you can approach these animals and take a photo. Most cameras are very sensitive to red lights, so they can get a focus using a very dim red light. And then you can take photos like this, where you can see all the animals inside. I normally see these guys at about 18 meters. You have to dive down to get them, but once you spot them with your light, you have to approach very slowly and with a red light on. This is a flying fish. We see these at the surface. These guys are great. You can approach them in any way you want. If you stick a bright light on them, they don't notice. In fact, they'll often swim towards you and try and hide inside your dive gear somewhere. This is a juvenile, maybe 2 centimeters tops. Has this wonderful Fu Manchu moustache and a very unusual color. The next flying fish is an Atlantic one, maybe 2 centimeters. Once again, you can just get incredibly close with a white light. It doesn't care. A slightly bigger flying fish now. This is one you'll find around sargassum patches. Full bright light doesn't faze them. The approach to these guys is as quick as you want. You spot it, just go and swim to it. It's wonderful. Here's another view of them. They often go around in schools. I think they make wonderful subjects to take photos of because they're so different from reef fish, from nudibranch. You see always nudibranch, always reef fish, but there's this flying fish bird, and they're just wonderful to take photos of because they're so compliant. You just swim around and just try and keep in front of them to get these wonderful face-on shots. And another variety, they keep coming. Each time we go out, we see a different type of flying fish. They're incredibly docile. You can get incredibly close to them. And the only annoying thing about them is they reflect all the light you put on them. So you can have a dive where you're set up to take photos of jellyfish, where you have to have very strong flashes, very high ISOs, just to get the slightest image of them. And then all of a sudden you meet this fish that just reflects everything. So the first time you see one, you take a shot and it's burnt out. You have to, after a while, you get used to dialing everything back to essentially a reef shot. And here's the big brother, maybe 2 foot of flying fish, big guy. I believe this is what dolphins like to survive on. These are really mean looking fish. When you see them turn up, you'll see a school of maybe 4 or 5. They're quite scary, if a fish can be scary. They don't seem to ignore you, and if they feel like it, they headbutt you. So it's quite often when you're taking a photo for these guys just to come in and hit the camera. Now, more fun subjects for me. I like these guys. These are pteropods. This is going to be a series of pteropod photos. I like them because they just look really odd. To take a photo of something that, to me, is completely alien. Pteropods are a mollusk. They still have the shell. This guy, he has a smile. I mean, what the heck is that? They come in lots of different shapes and sizes. This pteropod has almost like a ballet dancer inside it. I have a friend who phoned me up very late one night, maybe 3 in the morning, and said, I need that photo on my wall. I can see things in it. I think he may have been under the influence, but it's a really cool thing. And they're full of these guys. Now, they are very sensitive to light and movement. So when you see one, when you're spotting, you have to approach it incredibly slowly. When they sense you're nearby, they will start flapping and disappear so fast. This is another one, another crazy variety. Normally these guys have the very bottom point cracked off. So this is quite nice to see one with a spike at the bottom. Here's another crazy looking one. I think from a distance, this looks like a person with their arms out. They're addictive. Once you find one pteropod, you just keep looking for them. The amount of these in the ocean is just phenomenal. And this is one of the cases for increased acidity in the oceans, that if we have a marked increase in the salinity of the acidity of the oceans, we're going to lose these pteropods. And these are the backbone of kind of the food chain out there. Here's another one, sea angel, wonderful little guy. These flit around at an incredible rate of knots. You have to wait. You watch them swim and you have to wait for them to stop. Then you can take their photo. They're definitely patient with that guy. And again, another one, just the shapes in them I think are just wonderful. Another one, big ears this time. So that brings me onto crazy fish. This is a very unhappy looking cusk eel. Took a while for people to ID this one because it's so different from the ones that we normally see. How a fish can look unhappy, I don't know, but this one definitely does. You can approach these guys very, very easily. They don't really swim away. I think that's why the blackwater photography guys love them. The cusk eels in Cozumel are very boring, as you can see by this guy, incredibly depressed. But the ones everywhere else in the world, if you get a chance to do it, normally have incredible patterns and extensions onto their fins. So we're a bit disappointed with that one, but there it is. To a very, very fast subject now, from a very slow subject to a very fast subject. A sailfish. To see a sailfish underwater at night is quite something. I know I was incredibly excited when I saw this. I think Frida was on a dive where we saw another one, and the squeals that were coming from us as we were taking these photos. Now, as you can see, the photo isn't very good. It's bleached. The highlights are too much. It's not a good photo. However, it's a photo of it, and I was so chuffed to get something that was mildly in focus. This guy was maybe 8 to 9 inches long, maybe 10 inches. Very much a sailfish, and the way in which it moved around. This is a baby angelfish, of all things. These guys are super easy to take photos of, and one that I kind of practice on. I didn't get this one right, but I just loved his pose. You have to be very careful because of the reflection of the light. Strobe positioning is very important with these guys. Some people do inward-facing strobes when they take photos of these, just because it reduces your reflections. I very rarely change my strobe position throughout the dive, just because I'm too busy looking for things. Next little fish, from a very shiny fish to a very matte fish. This is a sea robin. I've never seen a sea robin on Cozumel, but I've seen one in the Blackwater around Cozumel. He was maybe 1 inch long. Very distinctive pectoral fins on these ones. I've seen another one since, but I failed to get a photo. And then we get psychedelic shrimp. Psychedelic shrimp normally come up about 10 days after full moon. They seem to be very deep. They have this wonderful coloration. I've done nothing to the colors on this photo. This is as they look. They look like this to the eye. They're amazing. I've only seen, 4 of them, and each time was on the 10-day mark, and all very deep. This guy, this crazy looking fish, is a tonguefish, and they're fantastic. Hopefully Frida has her video. Do you have your video, Frida, of the tonguefish doing a little pirouette? They're amazing. To see these in reality, photos don't do them justice. We also get fully grown fish out there, not just juveniles. So we have this fully grown seahorse, maybe 4 inches tall, fantastic. And then on the right here we have a dwarf frogfish who was just swimming around, maybe 2 kilometers out to sea. And normally that's a reef subject. To see it fully grown in a blackwater situation, very, very unusual. Both fantastic subjects. To see a seahorse on a reef is a big thing in Cozumel. To see a frogfish too, and then to see it kilometers out into the ocean, amazing. Blackwater diving, you never know what you're going to get. We also get these guys. This is a Caribbean spiny lobster. and they do a thing called, well, they hold on to their prey. If you can see on the bottom left in green is a net casting siphonosaur, on the right is another one, and in its bottom left is another one. So this guy either is eating these or he's using them as protection. No one really knows. I would say it's probably both. They're tremendously fun to find. So this brings me on to cephalopods. I don't know how I made that connection, but here it is. This for me was one of the most exciting things to find out there. So I don't know if you guys can still hear me, can you? I just had a warning on my screen. No, okay. So we have here an argonaut. This is like a pre-octopus. So you find them on salps and on salp chains. Often they're called paper nautilus. Absolutely incredible find. To see this little guy made me so happy. And then to take a photo with another thing, because they're attached to salp chains, and the salp chains are maybe 2 to 3 meters long. The salp chains are spinning, and you then have to get inside this salp chain, find the argonaut, and take a photo before you either blow a bubble and destroy the salp chain, or your fins or your presence upsets them. So amazing. Here's another set of photos that kind of helps explain what you're looking for. On the left, you can see 2 salp intestines and the argonaut. On the bottom right, you can see the salp chain and the argonaut right in the middle, and then 2 close-ups of the little guy. Incredibly hard to spot. Incredibly hard to spot. It's all down to fin technique, and you just have to count as the salps go past. Is there one that shouldn't be there? Their coloration matches almost perfectly. It's just a case of as soon as you see a salp chain, start looking at the orange intestines, and then once you've found that, then you have a high chance of finding them at argonauts. What we come on to squid. They're brilliant. Squid are amazing. Cephalopods are amazing, and we have thousands of these guys. When researching, when doing all the different drops, looking at the maps of Cozumel, looking at the underwater terrain, trying to work out where to drop, we discovered this one spot that has a really high chance of having a very, very large number of these inshore squid turn up. They're awesome to watch. They interact with you. They will ink you. They will eat each other, as you can see on the right. That's not a passionate thing going on. That's 2 squid eating each other. And it leads to this. There's the winner on the left and the loser on the right. It's incredible. So you're looking at a living squid and a dead squid. The stuff that goes on out there is just, when it really goes off, it's frenetic. It's incredible. Incredible. I'm excited even seeing these photos. I love it. And the squids change sizes too. Not only are they a decent size, they're also super tiny. Now, the squid on the left was maybe the size of your thumbnail. The squid on the right was maybe your little finger thumb, the little fingernail. So the range in sizes is phenomenal. The quality of the photo on the right was terrible, but this squid looked different to me. When you see all the little squidlets and you see one which is different, that's the photo you take. You take a photo of the normal one, you also take the smaller one. I have a feeling that's a different species. I haven't posted it online, I should do. I was a bit embarrassed by it because it's out of focus. But I need to post it because it is a different looking animal. And here was another different looking animal. This guy was big, perhaps 2 foot. Maybe my mind is making that bigger than he was. I definitely felt he was well over 1 foot long, incredibly fast, maybe 2 feet. Flying squid, amazing. What a thing. This was at the end of a dive 4 days ago. a big group of squid were circling the lights and playing with us, and were coming up and inking. And then all of a sudden, these big squid turned up, maybe 20, 30, all swimming together very fast. Incredibly exciting to see these cephalopods, because they're talking, they're swimming around together, and they move in just a beautiful way. And then even bigger. So this is a flying squid. These guys actually fly. This was way out in the channel, perhaps 2.5 foot of squid, very large. This is one of the few hooked squids we have here. So on the end of its tentacles, it will have hooks. It almost was disconcerting to see this squid. It was, as you can see by the number of color sites on it, that's an intelligent animal. It looked back at you. It felt like it was big. It was big. And then it takes us to little baby octopus just floating around. It's super cute. This guy was maybe the size of my nail, my little nail. I've seen maybe 7 or 8 baby octopus out there that just float around, getting around. Incredibly cute. How could you not love a baby octopus like that? And then the thing that really got me into blackwater photography. This guy is a long-armed octopus. The mantle of the octopus was maybe 2 inches, 3-4 centimeters, and the arm span was maybe 30 centimeters. And it was just hanging in the darkness at about 18 meters in the pose that you see it there. And I was hooked because it was looking at the Kraken. It was incredible. I took a whole series of photos before it disappeared. These guys are incredibly photosensitive. So before I took this photo, all of its arms were outstretched. As soon as I put light on it, the arms started to roll back in. So I switched to red light only and got relatively close and took a few photos. But then it didn't like it and started to swim away. This photo, you can see its arms curled up just from my initial light hitting it. I took a couple of photos and it swam the other way. Just phenomenal to see this animal. And there it is. After I put a bit more red light on it, it started to regain its color. It started to be not so annoyed. And there it is. I mean, for me, my favorite underwater photo I've taken ever. It's not brilliant, but it's what it means, that the discovery of this animal. I've seen 3 in total now. And my favorite photo is the one on the right there, the rocket ship. It's not a good photo, right? It's got so much wrong with it. The background it's got backscatter in it. You can see my focus light. Remember my spotting light in the background, creating that grey, where I was lighting up the thick sediment, well, kind of thick, but the background. So it's a terrible photo. Most people would look at this and go, it's awful. However, to me, it's so significant because it's what made me want to keep doing it. It's incredible. It looks like a rocket ship in space. But it's not, it's just in Cozumel, about a kilometre off the coast. It was amazing. What photo next? Now we've got some more pteropods. These are great. These are sea butterflies. And I think they are just beautiful. You meet these guys underwater, and they're normally attached to a big ball of mucus. I have no photos of that big ball of mucus. It's incredibly hard to take that photo. However, I have these guys. They're snails. They're a mollusk. You watch them flutter around, and it's just literally like watching a butterfly float around. It's magic. It's like being in outer space when you reach the layer, the scattering layer, and you see these animals floating around. It's pure magic. So the one on the left is a very frenetic swimmer. That one goes like the clappers. You can also see it laying an egg string. So the corkscrew, you can see the dots, they're eggs. The wisp going off to the left is its tail. I still haven't got eggs for the main one, the one on the right there. Next on our thing is our little fishes. So I got in trouble for the photos that you see here because it's of a puffer fish that's puffed. Everyone says that's bad, right? We all know that you mustn't stress fish. However, these guys are always like it. You see that you go into black water, you swim up using a red light, and you'll watch these guys puff up continuously when other fish swim past. So the porcupine puffer on the right, maybe the size of my fist, the guy on the left, maybe the size of my thumb, and the little guy, fingernail size. What more could you want, a little puffed up puffer fish? But people gave me a, and said I was being a bad person by posting them. I can agree on a reef, but in Blackwater we see these quite regularly, and so cute. Just looks like amazing. How could you not like that? And then jellyfish, from fish to jellyfish, from cute fish to jellyfish. This is a club hydromedusa. They're amazing. You get times of year in Cozumel where we just get so many of them, you can't swim without hitting them. They entertain so much life, it's wonderful, and getting a photo of one is a terribly challenging thing. Where do you put your strobes? How do you light it so you don't light the background? As you can see, I failed dismally with this. There's loads of backscatter, but there's backscatter. It's a hydromedusa. It's covered in fireworms. I like it. More hydromedusas. I kind of fixated on getting photos of these guys because they're so spacey. Normally requires strobes at quite a high output, with quite a high ISO. I'm maybe going to ISO 800, 5 to 800, strobes at full power, and using that secret triangular method that the subject is the same distance away from the lens as the strobes are to the lens. So you end up with an equilateral triangle between subject, strobes, and lens. More jellyfish here, kind of jellyfish. These are very, very common here. We've got sea gooseberry, which is a form of comb jellyfish, and the comb jellyfish on the left. The guy on the left is wonderful because it's one of the predatory types that will eat other jellyfish. They're great fun to watch. The little sea gooseberry on the right there, it has this incredible network of fishing nets that it lets out. I still haven't been able to take a photo of them. I really wish, and I hope one day I do get a decent photo of it. At the moment, I'm just happy to take a photo to show the wonderful diffraction of the light within the cilia that you get around the animal. Amazing. Little baby fish again. These are squirrel fish. So I put the photo in the middle to show squirrel fish. This is how squirrel fish start their lives. The two silverfish on the outside with these wonderful little dorsal fin and the pointy nose, and then they end up being that red guy in the middle. What a wonderful little life story that they live pelagic lifestyles until they find a reef. They settle on a reef, turn red, and become adult squirrel fish. If I had a marine fish tank, I would want to fill it full of these guys. They're so much fun to watch. When you're around the lights at the end of a dive, you'll see hundreds of them just playing in the lights. And with their distinctive little yellow dorsal fin, they're just amazing things to watch. So, this is what we all want to go and see, right? This is when you go blackwater diving, this is one of the subjects. And it's just, I don't know why I put these in there. I guess I was just pleased with the photos. They kind of turned out all right. The tripod fish, not brilliant photos, not like as nice as that other one I got that was completely surrounded, but just to take a photo of a translucent fish in the middle of the ocean, most people are pretty happy with that. Back to jellyfish, another translucent jellyfish. Oh, that's right. I was going to tell you that the reason that these guys have this wonderful foot frill is they're trying to look like jellyfish. This is their whole idea is to try and blend into the background so they're not eaten. They're trying to look like a poisonous jellyfish. And they kind of get away with it. They kind of look like it. I mean, I can kind of see a similarity, kind of. But anyway, more jellyfish with fish and jellyfish. There's so much of this out there, it's almost ridiculous. Here's some Cetonophores, I believe they're called. These are spot wing comb jellies. These guys bioluminesce if you touch them. Not that you touch them, obviously, but they do. The light you see on the cilia is just the light being diffracted. But they actually, if they touch anything, they bioluminesce, and that's quite fantastic to see when you're there underwater. If one bumps into you, you see it glow completely green. Awesome little thing to watch. This was from the other day. This is a phonumia, something like that. I don't know pronunciation, but it's an amphipod that lives inside salps. The one on the right there, you can see all the eggs. You can see the wonderful cell structure in its eyes. And this guy was the inspiration behind Alien, from Ridley Scott's Alien movie. It lives inside the salp, it hollows the salp out, and it lives inside the salp. And I just think it's the most incredible alien to find. This guy was about the size of my big toe. They're very visible, and just alien. The biggest problem with these guys is when you're underwater and you're trying to keep buoyant next to them, you have to follow them. They're very active swimmers. They propel themselves around very, very well. And obviously, when you see them, they've come up from 200 feet down. So they're really going. And you just have to make sure you don't hurt yourself as you try and work out which way is what. I still don't know which way round they are. Is the one on the right the back? Is the one on the left? I don't know, but it's alien. Next, going back to that sea robin. To take this photo, you have to swim backwards. So blackwater diving is all about your back finning technique. To try and get a face-on shot of a fish when it's swimming is terribly difficult. No camera can really keep up with that focus speed. I use a D500, and it's got one of the fastest focuses you can get. Apparently, one of the next photos, the Sony 6300 has an incredibly fast focus. So you just have to swim backwards and pull the camera back and hope you get it in focus and just take lots of shots. There's also a lot of crazy looking critters, crazy looking weird things. These are two tube dwelling anemones, both in their larval stages. Obviously both have eaten something, they have been so swollen, normally they don't look so puffy. The one on the right I turned into a competition, and we'll see some of those up later. But I just think when you see these floating there, they're great to take photos on. They're great to practice on because they don't move. These aren't swimming, these are just floating. Here's two baby fish that you often see on the reef. These are very obvious when you're swimming. On the left, we have a frogfish. They're very easy to spot, and they're very easy to get close to because they jet, they don't swim. They have jet propulsion. You see them take big mouthfuls of water and squirt it out, and they move around, so very easy to spot. The guy on the right is a scorpion fish. If you look closely, you can see the kind of the head structure already forming. This guy was maybe 1 centimeter. The frogfish was maybe 5 millimeters. Here are two crazy crab megalopia. I love crabs. I've always liked crabs. Even when I was 3, and I used to go and pick them out of the sea and race them. On the left, you have a box crab. It's really obviously a box crab from its claw setup. On the right, I have no idea, and nobody knows as yet. I just see it as an alien. Just an amazing looking thing. Who would even invent that? If you were drawing an alien, that would almost look too much. We have some more crabs here. No idea on the left and no idea on the right. A furry crab and a shiny crab. But they're maybe 5 centimeters. They're all pre-crab crabs. There'll soon be crabs on a reef, I'm sure, or food. But they're crabs are amazing. Next, we've got some what are these guys called? These are mollusks. They are essentially words gone out of my mind. Velgar, they call them, don't they? They're the mollusk velgars. So they're like the planktonic phase of snails. You can see the foot. You can see their eyes on the left. You can see its foot splaining up. You can actually see 2 dots of its eyes, which I think is just absolutely crazy. You can see the shell is covered in hydrons, which is just amazing. There's people who have done their PhDs on these guys and asked me for photos of them, which I think is amazing. To me, they're just pretty little X's that float around. But they get doctor out of it. So here's some 2 crazy shrimp. 2 crazy ones. The one on the left is an unknown variety. The one on the right is an arrow crab, an arrow shrimp. We get those on the reefs around Cozumel very frequently. They love the grassy areas. The one on the left, no idea, nobody knows. Crazy shrimp. There's millions of them out there. They all have .sp after their name. They must be unusual living life with eyes all the way out there. That's all I can think. Here's 2 of the nastiest little critters you'll ever meet. These are the guys that sting you and you don't even know, and they really, really hurt. If you've ever been snorkeling around Cozumel, if you've ever been out in the reef and you get hit by something which really hurts, more than normal, it's going to be these guys. 2 little box jellyfish. The one on the right I put out as a competition once, and people repeated it. It was really quite fun. Next photo is barracuda. Baby barracuda. They act like barracuda even when they're this big. They come up to shiny things and they run away at the very last moment. What evil looking guys, but brilliant. This is a soapfish. Soapfish larva. They all have this this very distinctive patination around its pectoral fins and a very long filament that comes off the top fin. The filament is there to act as stability within the water column. It's also there to act as a deterrent for other animals to eat it. They all take on this dotted kind of look. If I pull up the next one, it's the next one. No, it's not. But I will come back to that. Just remember that if you see the structure of this animal, it's trying to look like a jellyfish, but it also has this filament, and the filament is quite thin. And there's a lot of fish underwater that look like it. These are not fish. These are coral larvae. What you're looking at here is a coral. On the left, you have a standard coral. On the right, you have a zoonocoid. So kind of a different style of coral. I didn't know coral looked like this until I took the photo. What a weird thing. You can see 2 little jacks eating the coral, which is a bit sad. But, one of them has it stuck in its mouth like a gobstopper, and the other one is just chewing on its side. You often see on blackwater dives a lot of fish connected to food like this. I guess in the ocean, when you find food, you don't want to let go of it. Speaking of not letting go of fish, this is a filefish, and it was mouth holding this jellyfish, alien. This was one of the first dives we ever did, and we had a huge amount of these filefish, and they all were holding on to something or another. Really beautiful to take photos of because they don't move. They just hang there and very, very slowly move in the water column. So it's quite easy to get a nice shot of them. They just turn up from every now and again. I hope there's a season for these guys. Here's 2 gobies. This is what gobies look like when they're out in the ocean. And as you can see, they both have these filaments. And they believe that these filaments are for stabilization in the water column, but also they look exactly like the siphonophores, the net casting siphonophores. And there's other fish that do this exactly the same thing. So these are 3 different fish here. but all trying to look like the siphonophores. So on the left, we have a basslet, a little fairy basslet you get on the reef, the purple and orange guys. That's what they look like when they're juvenile on the left. In the center, we have a ribbon fish. These are very famous for blackwater photo guys because they get quite big and they get even more ribbons. They end up being incredibly developed. And then on the right, you have the pearlfish. And they all have this filament, and they're all trying to look like the center photo of the siphonophore. I just think nature's incredible. The fact they've developed this mimicry, mind blowing. When you see things, often they're not what you think they are. So when I saw this ribbon fish, which kind of really put Cozumel on the map for a lot of people with blackwater because it's such a special animal, I really thought it was a piece of siphonophore. I almost ignored it until I saw a fish in the middle wiggle. I suddenly realised that it was an animal. It wasn't just a siphonophore. And then we got invisible fish, completely see-through. These are the most annoying fish to point out to your friends. The guy on the left is a snake eel, and the one on the right is a peacock flounder. Completely see-through, incredibly hard to take a photo of, never stop moving, and guaranteed when you call your buddy over to show them, they will have disappeared. So blackwater photography is very personal. You'll go out and half the time don't pass the subject on, just take it for yourself, because by the time you've got someone over, it's either gone or completely invisible. Thinking about mimicry, my slides got a bit mixed up here. On the left is a blue tang. That's what it looks like before you see him on the reef. And on the right is a fish that it's mimicking. If you look carefully on the left, you'll see the dark section of the animal is very, very similar to this vertical section of the fish. They believe that this animal, the tang is desperately trying to look like it's going up and down. So when it moves left and right, it confuses the predator. Bonkers. How about that? And if you kind of squint, when you see one in reality, they do look very, very much like the fish on the right. Those fish on the right, they're always vertical. The one on the left, I believe the one on, so a fish trying to look like the other fish. You can kind of see it, I don't know, put the two photos together, kind of works. I've got weird looking stuff. This is a snail, I've forgotten the name of it. You can see on the right hand photo has a nice in focus section of the shell. On the left photo it has a decent in focus section of the eyes. It's always looking up. This animal looks up. I haven't inverted it, this is the way they are. When you see one, it's very difficult to comprehend exactly what you're looking at, or what it feeds on, or what it's even looking for. But they hate light. So you can't take these photos with using a white spotting light. This is a red spotting light only animal. I think this animal has the best name of any of the ones that I've shown you tonight. This is a dragonfish, and it's called a star swallower. A dragonfish star swallower. When it's an adult, it will live down the abyssal plain. Very unusual looking animal. It doesn't get very big. They get to around about 2 foot. At this stage, it was about 5 centimeters. And the thing that's protruding out the back is its stomach. That's its stomach, an external stomach. It's one of these animals that has an incredibly large jaw. If you see it on the left-hand photo, you can see a jawline. When these animals yawn, their jaw is, maybe three times the width, maybe 4 times the width of the animal. Quite incredible to see. When you strobe them, they will start to yawn, as most fish do, and then you'll see the massive jaw. I didn't manage to get a photo of it because as soon as you put light on it, this animal is heading back down. And another animal that heads straight back down. These are both pelagic nudibranch. The one on the left is a very blurry photo. The one on the right is kind of psychedelic. they are very, very photosensitive. So you won't see one during the day. When you find a spotting light, it will instantly start swimming down. So you have to really, really cut the light with your hand, or use a red focus beam. Fish that aren't photosensitive, these guys don't care. This is a dorado, mahi mahi, tasty fish. Juvenile on the left, very small. It's nearly an adult, almost looking lean on the right, as you can see pretty much at the surface. Seeing these guys in the water is quite a buzz, you know. When you see an adult swim through the dive, and we get them quite often, they're really big and they're very, very, very fast. When they're juveniles, they tend to hang out around sargassum clouds or around the lights just feeding. Another one, this is looking at the what do you call it? Words have gone. It's a sailfish. Just thinking about the surface, because these guys are at the surface, they don't care about lights. These are the two individuals that we saw, the one being slightly bigger, the smaller one, I believe Frida's got some video of, or some photo of. They're just, you know, stunning, an amazing animal. This is a prize zone. You get quite a lot of them. And it's the one animal you can actually start using super macro on. So I have a flip diopter, a CMC1 from Nauticam. And you can see me using that in the sensor square video. So initially on the bottom right, you have the full animal at 60mm, and it's probably about a foot long. And I've got closer and taken the circle. I've got closer again and taken just the center section where you can see the individual animals that make up this prize zone. And then I use the the CMC1 to get close, so you can see the structure. Okay, so what do we have next? That's pretty much the end of what I was going to talk about. This is, there you go, there's Cozumel Blackwater. This was a photo we took just before a dive the other night, with the full moon behind it. This dive was incredible, not only for my terrible quality iPhone photo that I took, but also the amount of animals we saw. It was incredible. I think I put a few more photos, right? So I did a competition the other day to see who could make the most ridiculous photo out of one of my Blackwater photos. So there's a Star Wars based version.
Robert, let me make a pause here because your camera battery has ended.
Okay, thank you.
We can still hear you, so I mean you can continue and show us things.
Okay, so there we go. This is another one. I can just change the battery 1 second, but this is that one there. This is one of the best ones, I think. Absolutely outstanding. The creativity of people. And what else do we have? And another one, just genius. Wonderful, just love it. Blackwater photography allows you to be silly. I think it's great. You don't get to do this with normal photography. And this is my favorite. I think this is the winner. Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. It's amazing. It's terribly low quality, but I love it. What else do we have? I think that's the best one. Zoom. There we go. That's us now, isn't it? There's the winner. There you go. That's all I managed to talk about. When it comes to the actual camera setup, I don't know if you guys can see me, but that's it. This is all I do. I take photos in this setup. The flashes are at 10 and at 2 o'clock, and they're keyed slightly out. And then I just take photos just like that. That is it. Very, very rarely do I move that setup. If I see something that is big, I may then extend the strobes away from the lens. Other than that, that's all I do. I'm incredibly lazy. That's probably why I have backscatter and all this other stuff, but I'm purely interested in getting focus and getting a photo of the animal. That's half the challenge, right? You have any questions?
Fantastic.
I don't know what else to say.
I would like to continue. Could you perhaps stop sharing your screen?
Yes, hang on. Oh, hang on.
So I believe that what could be next would be Frida with her presentation, and at the end we will have the session of questions and answers for both of you.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So that way we can go on and give Frida the word, la palabra. Entonces, bueno, pues ahora vamos a continuar. Thank you very, very, very much, by the way. I mean, I just, I didn't want to go on.
Thank you for letting me be here.
Without thank you enough. Your presentation, it has been really great. But as the time is ticking, we are going to go with Frida and then go back to the questions and answer session. Pues Frida, te dejo la palabra. Qué gusto tenerte aquí, tener a una mujer fotógrafa que trabaja además con un equipo bastante básico. Así que, pues, adelante, por favor, te escuchamos.
¿Sí? ¿Escuchamos algo ya?
Sí.
Hola.
Te escuchamos.
A ver, voy a compartir la pantalla. Listo. ¿Ahí lo ven todos?
Sí, muy bien, se ve perfecto.
Muy bien. Bueno, pues hola, yo soy Frida Jonguitud y pues, soy buzo, soy fotógrafa, vivo aquí en Cozumel y me encanta tomar fotos de todos los animales que puedo encontrar, me encanta bucear, le dedico una gran parte de mi vida. Y hoy vengo a contarles un poco sobre mi experiencia como en estos viajes con Robert al Blackwater, pero pues con una cámara mucho más básica, un equipo mucho más básico, le llamo yo como cámaras compactas. Y bueno, yo trabajo con GoPro y con Olympus TG5. Tengo también, antes de la Olympus tenía una Sea Life DC2000 y estas son como lo más acercado que tuve a los seres que encontré en el Blackwater. Siempre he sido muy fan de las medusas, me encantan. Siempre desde antes de conocerlas, siempre creí que eran seres como abismales, que vivían en las profundidades, que yo necesitaba un submarino para ir a verlas. Y pues llegué a Cozumel y me las encontré en el día, ¿no? Podía verlas mientras buceaba o mientras nadaba, y estas son las fotos más cercanas que encontré de ellos. Y la verdad, no sé, creo que la mayoría pues son medusas y tenóforos, ¿no? Y me conseguí una luz de video que es esta, y pues con esa era como logré estas fotos. La verdad tienen mucha edición y entonces, bueno, estas son las fotos que conseguí. Bueno, y un día Robert nos invitó a hacer este buceo loquísimo. No nos dijo realmente qué íbamos a hacer, ni exactamente sabía nadie a dónde iba a ir, ni qué nos íbamos a esperar, pero pues decidimos ir, ¿no? Decidimos ir como un grupo de buzos, como que son dive masters e instructores, para, pues, que eran como seguros en el agua y pues caímos. Primero se ve así, las luces, como les mostró Rob, se ve muy, muy, muy loco. Y después, pues entras al agua y es mucho más cómodo de lo que parece. Da mucho menos miedo porque todo el tiempo tienes tu luz en la mano, ¿no? Todo el tiempo tienes como la luz y está la iluminación de los focos. Entonces eso te da mucha seguridad a mí. Y de repente empiezas a encontrar estos seres así flotando y son muy mágicos y son muy rápidos y bioluminiscentes, algunos tienen iridiscencia. Entonces, o sea, sí es la oscuridad total y suena un poco aterrador. Ahí está Rob. Pero, Rob, look, that's you. You haven't seen that video. I haven't seen it before either. Entonces, pues sí, la verdad es mucho menos terrorífico de lo que yo creía, de lo que todos creíamos, y pues empecé a tomar fotos con la Olympus. En el primer buceo, empecé a tomar fotos como esta. Estas fotos son totalmente raw, en crudo. Creo que apagué mis propias luces y decidí captar como lo que veían mis ojos. Tiene muchísimo ruido y bueno, eso fue lo primero que logré, lo primero. Le bajé la exposición, que es lo único, la Olympus no le puedes hacer muchos cambios, entonces solo lo puse en aperture mode cuando quería hacer una foto como en un ángulo más grande, o en microscope mode cuando quería tomarle fotos pues a estos, que es un tenóforo y no me acuerdo el nombre de él, pero son mucho más pequeños. Y esta es la foto del lado arriba, tenemos la foto en RAW y abajo tenemos la foto editada. Es para que vean cómo va la edición. La mayoría de las fotos que tomé ese primer buceo, pues yo veía las fotos en la pantalla de la cámara y se veían muy malas. Son fotos así que yo decía como, bueno, no van a tener nada. Y cuando llegué a mi casa y las edité, pues quedaron mucho mejores. La verdad es mucha la diferencia, hay que hacerle mucho trabajo porque pues el zoom es muy limitado y se mueven muy rápido y pues estas cámaras no logran captar mucho. Entonces, pues es bajarle la exposición para que no refleje tanto en los seres que son transparentes. Esta es una moon jelly y esperar lo mejor, ¿no? Tomar un montón de fotos es lo que yo hago normalmente, un montón, las más que puedo. Y bueno, después se me apareció este tenóforo que me encantó y le hice estas fotos. La foto de abajo es de mis fotos favoritas, creo que es como una nave espacial. Tenemos la foto en RAW y la foto editada. Esta foto le tuve que quitar todo el backscatter con Lightroom. O sea, llevan un proceso de edición bastante largo. Y como me gustó tanto y me dijeron que mi familia y, bueno, mi mamá y algunos amigos me invitaron a este concurso. Yo la verdad no lo había visto. Y pues con estas fotos decidí que no había muchas personas, era a través del lente de la juventud, entonces no había muchas personas menores de 30 años que pudieran acceder a este tipo de fotografías, ¿no? Y eso fue lo que me inspiró a, a, a mandar la foto y pues gané el segundo lugar, me gané una cámara, fui muy feliz, fue muy feliz. Fui a la Ciudad de México y mi foto fue expuesta, la foto de ese tenóforo fue expuesta en el Museo de Historia Natural en la Ciudad de México. Fue muy, muy lindo. Bueno, después seguimos yendo. Esta es una foto del segundo Blackwater. Ese es Sean y ahí vemos que, o sea, si apagaba la luz y bajaba la exposición, pues podía ver bastante bien la foto, ni siquiera la tuve que editar tanto, ¿no? Se ve muy bien. La Olympus logra captar fotos así muy oscuras, no sé, me pareció muy impresionante. Y luego, pues tenemos otras fotos como un tiólido y un tenóforo que pues también requieren mucha edición, pero sí es posible como captar su belleza, me parece. Y decidí empezar a hacer video, porque había muchas veces que no podía enfocar lo que yo quería. Entonces dije, bueno, mejor me pongo a hacer video y se ve más bonito. La Olympus capta muy bien el video. De un lado podemos ver el video en RAW y la verdad lo edito en mi celular y en Instagram. Entonces lo edito de esta forma y creo que se ve muy bien. Y de ahí decidí hacer un montón más de videos, como que me encantó y vi como la Olympus reaccionaba muy bien a los videos en la oscuridad. Podemos ver acá de este lado los videos en RAW y del otro como si le subes los negros y le bajas los highlights, puedes encontrar como que se ve perfectamente negro y puedes ver la bioluminiscencia y la iridiscencia y cómo reflejan los cuerpos de todos los animales y puedes grabar a las personas. La mayoría de esos videos los hice con la GoPro y después empecé a usar también la Sea Life. Hice como mixes de todo lo que veíamos. Ese es un sea butterfly, una mariposa de mar. Está muy bonito y todo fue usando, pues tratando de enfocar con una mano la cámara y con la otra la luz de video. No la tenía en ningún brazo ni nada porque no tenía brazos en ese entonces. Entonces, pues solo enfocando, direccionando la luz con la mano y haciendo 1000 tomas todo el tiempo. Vemos a los calamares y sí logra captar con el modo macro en video cosas muy pequeñitas, como ese camarón que vimos, era muy pequeño. Y bueno, después obtuve este flash CNC, que te cambia la vida un flash, a mí me encantó. Y pude lograr fotos mejores, ¿no? Aquí tenemos un flying fish, un pez volador, que pues ya es como a mi gusto es como una foto ya muy profesional, que ni siquiera parecería ser tomada con una Olympus, ¿no? Se me hace muy, muy linda. De un lado tengo el flash CNC y del otro una luz de video sola en un tercio de su capacidad lumínica, no sé cómo se diga. Entonces ilumina al pez muy bien de los dos lados y esa foto la verdad me encanta, es muy linda. Y pues así del lado izquierdo tenemos la foto en RAW y del lado derecho la foto editada, que en realidad no sé cuál es mejor. Y también como los que les mostró Rob, que este es la verdad me fallan un poco los nombres. Rob es el que se lo sabe todos, absolutamente todos. Rob, what's the name of this?
That's a priazome.
Ah, sí, un pirosoma.
Priazome.
Gracias. Este es un pirosoma y son un montón de pegados, ¿no? De sea slabs pegados. Y esta foto es totalmente mi favorita de las que he tomado en la vida. Siempre había querido tomar una foto así. La foto en RAW la tenemos del lado izquierdo. Y todo lo hago con el modo microscopio y con el flash, ¿no? El flash siempre como a un tercio de su capacidad, porque si no es muy reflejante. Y le bajo la exposición, no al mínimo, pero sí 2 de 3. Y creo que quedó muy linda. Y bueno, quería enseñarles esta foto en especial porque la foto en RAW se ve muy mala. Tengo de un lado el flash y del otro lado tengo la luz de video, entonces le está dando luz por todos lados, hay backscatter, hay como luz, mucha luz, es muy intensa, pero tenemos esta herramienta súper chida, muy, muy buena en Lightroom, que se llama Dehaze, que busqué y en español se llama desempañar. Y pues es como magia, porque convierte o sea, como que no sé exactamente qué hace. Yo le bajé los highlights y le bajé todas le subí las sombras y le puse el dehaze y salió esta foto que me parece muy, muy buena. Y después tengo otra más o menos parecida, que también aquí, aunque no se ve, le subí el dehaze al máximo de Lightroom y funciona muy bien como para corregir estas fotos, porque en el Lightroom, en el Blackwater es muy fácil tener un montón de fotos que son basura, ¿no? Salimos, todos los buzos salen y me dicen, oh, tengo pura basura. Entonces parece que es basura, pero puedes corregirlo, puedes hacerlo mejor, bajándole la exposición, bajándole las sombras y usando este desempañamiento, puedes lograr una foto muy buena de algo que parecería que no es tan buena como esa, ¿no? Y esta que también me encanta, estos son los primeros seres en la cadena evolutiva con una espina dorsal, tienen una notocorda. Entonces eso es súper interesante porque puedes verla ahí, tiene iridiscencia, puedes ver cómo refleja, tiene un aparato digestivo, tiene un sistema nervioso, y puedes ver su interior, es muy lindo. Y pues la foto en RAW no sale tan mal. Y esta me encantó, apenas tuvimos esta magnífica presencia de como 300 calamares. Era increíble, nadaban alrededor de nosotros todo el tiempo, llegan y te tiran tinta y se van y te pegan en el lente, está padrísimo. Pero pues la foto, o sea, yo estaba apuntándolos con la luz y ahí como que se movían rapidísimo, tomé un montón de fotos, esta es la mejor que salió y de todas maneras está muy brillante, entonces le bajé todos los parámetros y le puse un poco de dehaze y ahí quedó, yo creo que quedó bastante bien, se ve muy linda. Bueno, aquí les enseño como algunos videos que puedes hacer con el Microscope Mode. Tenemos una larva de pulpo preciosa. Y este es un nudibranquio pelágico. También es muy pequeño y pues solo es como lograr seguirlo de forma que la luz, yo todo el tiempo estoy moviendo las luces, todo el tiempo, como para dirigirlo hacia el bicho. Ahora ya tengo como unos brazos que me ayudan más a dirigirlas. Y pues este es un video, el mejor también que pude obtener de los calamares, que eran muchísimos. Era muy difícil grabarlos porque se movían muy rápido, igual que este pez vela. El problema de este pez vela es que pues su cuerpo es tan plateado, como pudieran ver las fotos de Rob, que cualquier luz, por más mínima que sea, o mi luz era demasiado brillante, reflejaba muchísimo, ¿no? Entonces se volvió imposible por más que yo quise tomar un video, no. Y de este sí salió un video muy lindo, puedes ver toda la iridiscencia en cómo refleja mi luz en la piel de este tenóforo, no sé si se dice piel exactamente. Para hacer este video le bajé la exposición al mínimo en el modo de apertura en la Olympus y lo traté de apuntar lo más cerca que pude con la lámpara sola, que también al mínimo de su o sea, como mínimo brillo. Creo que quedó muy, muy lindo, se mueve así como muy suavemente. Me encantó. Y esto es como de lo más común que van a encontrar. y se mueven muy rápido. Yo creo que es difícil hacer video con los brazos, porque no buscas como enfocar algo siempre frente a ti, sino enfocar al bicho. A mí se me facilita mucho tener la lámpara en la mano, ¿no? Y todo el tiempo estar buscándolo con la lámpara y luego con la cámara buscando mi mano, más que no me ha salido tan bien. Ay, sí, listo. No me ha salido tan bien como con el brazo y la luz pegada al brazo de la cámara. Y bueno, estas son algunas fotos que quise poner ahí del último buceo. Me gustó mucho esta foto de la derecha, que podemos ver cómo es estar ahí. Solamente hay luces muy brillantes y zooplancton. Y bueno, ahora hay que contestar las dudas. Mi plática no es tan larga como la de Rob.
No, hombre, pues súper interesante todo lo que haces. Aparte de esta visión de, o sea, esta visión muy tuya de hacer video, también es súper interesante porque le da otra dimensión también al producto, ¿no? Que es no nomás fotos, sino toda la parte del movimiento que siempre es una parte muy complementaria, ¿no? Y que aporta además otras cosas que las da solamente el movimiento. Increíble. Pues sí, como es un poquito, digo, nos hemos extendido un poquito, pero han estado increíbles las dos participaciones. I'm going to switch in English. Si quieres, puedes dejar de compartir tu pantalla, Frida, tal vez. Gracias. Ok, bueno, pues, bueno, voy a cambiar al inglés para que Robert, que esté por ahí, me entienda también. Thank you so much, both of you, for this amazing presentation, for these two amazing presentations. They were really, really very, very interesting, and they are splendid invitations for us to go and dive with you guys and take photographs. And I see that there are many questions, so maybe it would be a good idea to ask. There are some of them that have been already answered by Robert, so I'm going to skip them, but let's see. Bueno, aquí hay unas preguntas de Francisco Guerra acerca de la exposición, pero esas mejor las vamos a tratar en el chat. Okay, so there's a question. Robert, I saw that you have already answered some of them, but I'm not very sure which ones. So maybe I'm gonna ask them, and if you have already answered them, you can say that they have already been answered, and we can skip that one and then go to the next. The thing is, you need to
answer anyway. They're all very, you know, from what I've written, they're very easy answers. So, no.
Okay.
I don't know what the top.
So let's go. So the first one is, do you prefer full frame sensor cameras or APS-C? Is there any technical considerations you take based on the camera sensor?
So as the dive is very much a macro dive, 99% of all the blackwater photographers who, you know, because once you do a blackwater dive and you kind of get a good result, it's very, very addictive. Everyone who does it as their primary dive, they all choose crop sensors. And then you use full frame lenses, and then you get that extra reach with them. So an APS-C, a crop sensor with a full frame 60mm or thereabout lens is perfect, absolutely perfect. Yeah.
Okay, very good. So another question, my red light is not that bright.
Yeah.
What brand model do you recommend?
I have a light that I was sold. I don't know if I would recommend it. It was the first ever dive light that I bought. It's a something Venom 3000. Again, it's not very bright. You don't need very bright for your red focus. Many of the animals that you want to get close to will reflect a lot of the light back, so you don't need a bright red. Often, if you have a very bright red, the animal will see it. So the idea of the red focus is to not alarm the animal too much. If you have a very bright red, the chances are it will alarm the animal. So yeah, just if it's not very bright, as long as your camera can pull focus in the dark using it, it's going to be okay. Other than that, I don't know. Kraken do some very nice lights. They do backscatter, have a very nice macro wide video light they now sell. That's fantastic. That has a red mode on it, which is relatively bright. I haven't used it yet. I plan to get one, but I need to be rich and famous for that. I'm not. So, soon. Okay.
So do you use two different lamps, or is one lamp with a red light, or do you spot the animal with
I will hold, when I have my camera in one hand, light, and what I do is I hold the torch, so the camera, and I change the position of my light, I don't know if it's visible, as I'm spotting, and then I can hold the torch on the animal and then pull the camera closer. I can then change the angle of the spotting light, and at the very last moment, because my torch is attached to me, I can drop my torch and then purely go on the red, which is normally mounted on the top of the camera. So I use the spotting lamp as a way to navigate the camera closer to the subject. I don't know if any of you guys have used macro wet lenses, and when you're trying to find the subject with a macro lens, the art of it is to navigate the booker into the subject. So in the blur, you have to recognize the animal and then navigate through. And when using a very bright spotting lamp, this is made by Kraken, and this is 1,200 lumens, but in a very small spot. So it has a very nice little, where is it there? Very nice little center beam. And this means I can highlight one area and then navigate my way in, at which point I drop the torch, go to red, and then the animal will just sit there and go, until you take a photo. So okay. That's the key.
All right. Muy bien. Now, do you consider that choosing a certain depth is important in order to find specific animals?
The word on the street, the consensus is no. You see everything everywhere. I disagree. I see a definite layered structure. I see at 100 feet, I see a different set of animals than I see at 18 meters and then at the surface. Definite change. You won't find flying fish at 30 meters. You find them at the surface. So every animal has its desired layer. A lot of the stuff migrates, but it will migrate to a layer. So it's a very hard thing to really say, but yeah, the depth does make a difference.
Okay. Muy bien. Now we have another question. What's your editing process? Do you make any changes on reframing or color correction?
I crop. I find the interesting part of the photo. My general view on photography is to get people engaged in the image. If you give them a phone with the photo and you see them do this, you've failed. They're reframing the photo for you just out of habit. So the idea of an image, it should be, for modern day access, it should be, so for example, let me demonstrate. If I put up a photo of my, you probably can't see it, this is a dot of a shrimp. If I find people zooming the shrimp, then I should have done that in the edit. So I look at a photo and I think, what's the interesting part of this animal? I'll then crop, and then that'll be the photo. it's not how competitions run. I get that, but I want people to be engaged by the photo. I don't want them to be zooming. I just want them to go, wow. And if you go, what's that? Without them zooming in, then I've won, I've got it. So I think that's for all photos. If you ever find yourself zooming in, you should just do it in your edit. Take away that process for the person. So yeah, when I come home from the dive, and I do it straight away. I have to do it straight away because I'm normally so excited to see what it looks like. That my first thing will be look for the focus. So I'll go through my ones and go, anything that is in focus, I'll keep. Things that are not in focus, gone. And then I will frame. I will go that part of the image. I hate to say it, that this guy, you can't see it, but this is a little crab megalopia. Well, it's so small in the image that I will never be able to print it. But it's still an engaging photo because it's an alien. Yeah. So it's doing its job of being an internet-only image, what it needs to be. People are looking at it on Instagram, on their phones. So it doesn't have to be huge quality, it just needs to be interesting. So that's my process. No color, maybe a few dots, probably not. No time, too many photos to look at. So crop. What I often do, and I think it's one of the best cheats for blackwater photography, is in your when you're applying a curve to a gamma curve to the overall image, you crop your blacks short. So you create either a linear or an S curve. So you've got your S curve coming in. You then pull your blacks off early, pull them down very quickly. Then you're setting a black layer, or you're setting it dynamically across the range, and you end up with a very nice black. You can lift it if you want to see more black, but I just often just go, tail it off, go, that's my black level there. It's a cheat. It works really well.
Well, it's not a cheat. Yeah.
Next time you're doing an edit, go down to your gamma curve and just instead of having the 0 value, dissect the XY, move it up the X. And so you end up with that curve. Works really good.
Yeah, you have a black, no?
Yeah, very black. That's what we want, black water, right?
Yeah. All right. What camera values do you recommend? Higher ISO, fast lens, or change shutter speed?
It's all camera dependent, isn't it? That ISO is a random value that somebody pulled out of the sky. It doesn't mean that anymore. It used to be about the film. Now it's just a gain level. It's not really anything. I know my camera responds really well at ISO 500. The D500, I don't know whether it's related. I know that some of the Sonys require a much higher ISO. But generally, if I was reef macro diving, my go-to numbers would be f22, 1/250th, and ISO 250. In blackwater, I'll bring the ISO to 500, and I'll bring the f down to f16. So I open the lens up and I make this film more sensitive. Shutter speed, it's flash photography, it makes no difference. So, yeah, so high ISO. A lot of people in America, the Florida guys, will bring more strobes. They'll have 3 strobes, and then they'll bring their ISOs down.
Okay.
But the idea is to not have really strong flashes, to have little flashes, but just lots of light. So you can go click, 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 click. Okay. The focus is your problem.
Okay. Now, a very important question is, because there are plenty of people who want to go and dive with you. So how can we contact you in order to go diving, blackwater diving?
Facebook, Instagram. Website is in the progress of being done. Cost me 99 cents, but it's coming. Blackwater Cozumel, Cozumel Blackwater, will all link via Instagram and Facebook and stuff. And then We go out as long as we have 4 people, and then the boat will go out for us. We are weather dependent. The magic number is 4, and we need the captain to say yes. Which, with enough bribery, we give him all the tips. He then goes out, and he loves it. They love it, because normally they don't get tips, or we just make sure they get tips. But yeah, so 4 people. Weather has to be right, and then we can go.
Okay. Very well. Now there's another question for you. I think that's the last one, perhaps. It's when is the best season to go diving, blackwater diving?
It seems to be all the time. We haven't. Well, I haven't noticed a really big. Each fish seems to have a season. So at the moment, we're seeing a lot of whalefish. During the summer, I was seeing lots and lots of like these little mackerel. So the visibility in Cozumel is good all year round. It's a bit cold right now, and the north wind means you get some big waves, but it seems to be stable. It's really cool, and because of that, it's amazing. Cozumel's always amazing, right? So it seems to be very constant. The summer we had lots of jellyfish, lots of clingfish, and a lot more sort of crustaceans, and the sargassum makes it really interesting because you have frogfish in the sargassum. You have lots of fish using the sargassum mats as safety. They're not essentially black water subjects, because the black water subject is the deep sea fish. That's kind of what people want to see. But the sargassum mats are just fun to dive. You've got seahorses, you've got the sargassum frogfish. I mean, it's amazing, amazing. Bring back sargassum. I think I'm the only person in the area who's saying that.
Muy bien. Okay, now we have some question for Frida in Spanish, okay? I'm going to ask you in Spanish. Entonces dice, ¿qué tanta experiencia de buceo consideras necesaria para hacer fotografía blackwater diving?
Bueno, creo que primero hay que hacer fotografía en el día. Hace unos días nos pasó que llegó con nosotros un buzo que era su primera vez con una cámara y era en el Blackwater, o sea, como que buscó en internet qué cámara y llegó al Blackwater como la primera vez que prendía su cámara en el agua y estaba totalmente perdido, ¿no? O sea, lo primero que hay que hacer es ir en el día, entender tu cámara, ver cómo funciona y la cosa de flotabilidad, o sea, hay que tener una buena flotabilidad, porque si no vas a perder inmediatamente. Bueno, para hacer blackwater diving tienes que tener buena flotabilidad, porque pues si no te vas hasta el fondo, ¿no? O sea, no te puedes ir al fondo porque te mueres, entonces es estar ahí como todo el tiempo moviéndote de arriba abajo y tienes que encontrar una estabilidad para que los bichos, pues como estar ahí justo enfrente, ¿no? Sí hay que tener experiencia haciendo foto submarina, no recomiendo como llegar y que sea lo primero que hagas. Blackwater de foto, hay que empezar por el día.
Muy bien. También preguntan que si crees que sea realmente necesario invertir mucho más dinero en equipo fotográfico. Se ven de muy buena calidad tus fotografías para hacer una cámara compacta. Sí.
Muchas gracias. Pues yo si tuviera el dinero, sí, bueno, dice que mi internet no es muy bueno. Sí lo invertiría, espero hacerlo eventualmente, por la nitidez de las fotografías. Hay muchas cosas, como Rob les enseñó estos como Sea Angels, que eran como que tenían una yema de huevo adentro, no sé si los recuerdan. Todos estos son así, pequeñísimos. Entonces, mi cámara, por más que lo intente y de verdad los enfoque perfectamente, no los encuentra, ¿no? No los puede enfocar. Entonces, si quieres irte como más lejos y tomarle foto a seres más pequeños, y por ejemplo, muchas veces ves como un calamar, pero tiene algún parásito pegado o estos slaps que tienen como los argonautas pegados, esos son imposibles de tomar con una Olympus, totalmente imposible. Entonces, si quieres irte más profundo y tomar foto de todo lo que vemos, sí necesitas un equipo más costoso e invertir más en una cámara DSLR.
Ok. Muy bien, también preguntan que a cuántos cuadros por segundo haces tus videos.
A 60
60, ok.
cuadros por segundo, pues en 2K o 4K. Pues, trato de hacerlo en 4K, pero a veces normalmente lo hago en 2K y 60 cuadros por segundo.
Ok, muy bien. Después también hay muchos comentarios felicitando su trabajo. There are a lot of comments congratulating you. There's one very nice from Alice. She says, Rob, your enthusiasm is quite contagious. I loved your pictures. Thanks so much.
Wow.
Y por aquí también hay otros para Frida. Felicidades por tus fotos y videos que están increíbles. Preguntan si casi todas las fotos son de animales chiquitos. Pues bueno, ya mencionó, pero si quieren, a ver, pues cuéntanos, Frida.
Bueno, pues no, yo no he visto, Rob ha visto el pulpo long arm una vez y también el otro calamar que dijo 2 feet una vez, ¿no? Hemos visto, o sea, el flying fish es más o menos así y los calamares como los 300 que vimos, yo digo 300, pero seguramente eran menos, son pues así, no más grande, esto es lo más grande que vemos. Ojalá que algún día se nos cruce un tiburón o algo así, pero hasta ahora eso es lo más grande que vemos. Entonces, si no necesitas un lente gran angular, si puedes llevar como toda la cámara ya con el setup de macro, mejor.
Ok, muy bien. Y bueno, hay varios, hay más agradecimientos. There are lots of greetings and thanks everywhere. Also, there's Elba Rojas who says that the presentation was very interesting, fascinating, and deep as diving is. Frida and Robert are masters of photography in this environment. You transported her back to those beautiful settings. Greetings. Así que bueno.
I think if she saw the photos that I don't show people, probably wouldn't think that I'm that good at it. But that's the art of photography, isn't it? It's not showing people the bad ones, and then everyone thinks you're amazing. Such great photos. Don't look at the massive pile of rubbish on the corner. Just the odd ones are good. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I love it. What's the best waste of time in the world? Jump in the water, swim around with fish, and take photos of aliens. It's the best waste of time in the world. Brilliant.
Muy bien, pues I don't know if you guys want to add something else for tonight's evening before we say goodbye. Rob or Frida?
Just when you guys come next, just make sure you say hello. We go out diving because it seems to be getting better and better and better.
Sí, estamos buceando todo el tiempo.
Muy bien. Pues thank you again. It was a really, really, really very interesting conference presentation. Your work is amazing. What you do is really amazing, and what you say, Rob, is really that, no? What is the best way to spend time than going and taking photographs to amazing animals? That's the best thing to do in the world.
90 minutes goes like this.
Yeah.
And you're like, how can that have been 90 minutes? I want more. Can I stay longer? And you just want more tanks. and stay longer and you want bigger batteries because it's just so addictive. And once you have the camera settings, I mean, I'm not lying, I literally go dial in a setting, and that's me for the dive. I go around and go focus click, focus click, focus click. And each time I come out, every dive will be a new animal I've never seen before. And I think, I know my brain loves seeing new things. You know, to see something I've never seen before makes my brain feel really good. It's like, wow, what is it? And to find out, and then to learn the story behind that animal and work out that, you know, when it was first discovered and who found it, and then they realized it was a different species, but it was that I think is the beauty of underwater photography. It's the discovery, and then you can analyze it later and just really understand what it is. If you didn't have the camera, how would you describe these animals? Mm-hmm. It was red, furry, had eyes, and went, what's that? Yeah, you're crazy. You have the photo, you can go, there's the animal, and you put the name to it, and it has life. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Super. Pues thank you so much again. And so everybody knows Blackwater Cozumel on Facebook and Instagram. Go and visit them, go and dive and photograph. And well, also Frida, you can find her also in Instagram. So yeah, let's keep in touch.
I just have to say,
yes.
I worry that people think, oh, it's going to be really difficult. It's the easiest dive you'll ever do. I feel bad that when you guys turned up last time, you had a rotten dive. It was like, no. When the activity is high, there is subject everywhere, and there's no current. You're just floating. The only thing that makes it difficult is yourself. The actual taking the photos is super easy because there is no current. There's nothing to touch. There's nothing to bang into. There's current. You can swim to your friend who is just 2 meters that way, looking at another crazy alien. And so the thing that makes it hard is just your own, honestly, is you're overthinking it. You're swimming up, just put some air in. It's that simple. So, you know, it's the easiest dive in the world. So hard. It's so difficult. It's brilliant.
We'll plan a trip with Amisub next.
Yeah.
Okay, bueno, pues I think we have to go now. It's 9:15, and thank you very, very much again. It was really amazing presentation, amazing photographs. Congratulations for all the work you do. It's amazing, and thanks.
Thank you.
Muchas gracias a todos. Nos vemos pronto. Bye.
Bye.